Good morning, everyone. What a wonderful Friday morning it is here today. Obviously, I'd like to welcome the Prime Minister, Deputy Prime Minister, all my colleagues here for a very special day. We are in the city of Vaughan, and in my riding of Vaughan Woodbridge, and here I'd like to thank the Carpenters Union for hosting us again today. It's wonderful. The partnership and collaboration that we've developed over the years with organized labor is second to none, whether it's a labor mobility deduction, whether it's funding for UTIP. We are there with the hardworking men and women that build our communities and our infrastructure across Canada. Prime Minister, welcome to Ontario's construction capital. Vaughan, the city of Vaughan, over 1,630 companies that employ 50,000 people in construction, over 300 companies in the building materials. We are going to face the challenge head-on building more housing for Canadians and the city of Vaughan, and the workers here at the Carpenters and across this wonderful city are going to meet this challenge head-on. With that, Prime Minister, welcome and happy Friday.
Bonjour à tous. Thank you, Francesco, for that introduction. You're always such a great advocate for your community here in Vaughan. I want to thank the many mayors who are here, who've been partners in helping us unlock housing. Mayor Stephen Del Duca, Mayor Frank Scarpitti, and Mayor David West. Thank you guys for being part of this today. La vice-première ministre et le ministre du Logement sont ici avec moi, Chrystia and Sean. Vous avez travaillé très fort pour l'annonce d'aujourd'hui. Merci d'être ici. And we've got great representation from our caucus team as well. Minister Ng, Minister Hussen, who got us started on this important work on housing. Chad Collins, our National Caucus Housing Chair, who's been pushing for smart solutions, and many of his recommendations are part of the plan we're announcing today, along with great members Leah, Majid, Paul, Manny, Tony, and all parts of our great teams here. But I really want to kick it off by thanking the workers behind me, thanking the folks who are stepping up to be part of solving the housing crisis, for all that governments can and should be stepping up. The work you're doing, and especially the work you're going to be doing over the coming years, is going to be unbelievably important as you build not just homes for Canadians, but homes that you're going to be able to see yourselves living in as well. That's an important part of this, that it's not just about building homes and great buildings and apartments to rent. It's about making sure that nurses, construction workers, teachers who work in a given city can also live in that given city. And that's something we're all gathered here today. I'm really excited about this announcement today because Canadians need homes they can afford. This is one of the most urgent issues that people are facing. Think about the couple who just had their first kid and don't know if they can afford to upgrade from their one-bedroom condo, or the student who can pay tuition but can't afford the rent near campus, or someone who can simply no longer afford housing in their community at all. It used to be that the deal was if you worked hard at a good job, you could afford a home. That doesn't seem the case anymore. Younger generations are worried that they won't have a life that looks like how they grew up, like what their parents and grandparents had. Well, that's not fair. So we've been stepping up, putting in the work, talking to Canadians, talking to housing experts, talking to builders, so that we could bring the right solutions that meet the moment. So today, we are releasing the most comprehensive and ambitious housing plan ever seen in Canada. It builds on the sizable investments we've made over the years, and it goes a lot further. It's a plan to build housing, including for renters, on a scale not seen in generations. We're talking about almost 3.9 million homes by 2031. It's a plan that, at its heart, is a commitment to affordability. Our goal is that no Canadian pays more than 30% of their income towards their home. It's also a plan to make sure that we don't leave the most vulnerable behind. that we keep building housing for people with low incomes, and that we take action to address homelessness so people never have to resort to living in a tent. And it's a Team Canada approach that provides incentives for provinces, territories, builders, and nonprofits to come on board. The math is simple. If we can increase housing supply, we can bring down prices. And we're going to need the know-how, abilities, and determination of workers like the ones here behind me today. I want to give another shout out to the members of the Carpenters Union. And Jason, thank you for your leadership specifically. A lot of union workers are going to be part of getting this done. You're going to be very, very busy. The construction industry will need reinforcements to get all this work done. So as part of our plan, we're going to be increasing support for workers in the skilled trades, creating apprenticeship opportunities for the next generation of workers, creating opportunities for young people, and investments to cut red tape for those with foreign credentials. Dans le cadre de notre plan, on va soutenir les travailleurs de la construction pour développer notre main-d'œuvre et bâtir le Canada. We've made a promise to Canadians that we were going to solve the housing crisis. So we rolled up our sleeves and we got to work. No ideas were off the table. No stone was left unturned. I'll let Minister Fraser talk through the details, but this is a comprehensive and detailed plan. Sean, you and your team have been incredibly thorough in how you've brought this together. This isn't simple slogans. It's not some YouTube video filled with half-baked ideas and inaccuracies. This is a serious plan, built after consultation with Canadians, with experts, with builders. It's a plan that's actually going to make a difference in the lives of Canadians. But it will also require provinces and territories to step up and meet the level of ambition that Canadians expect them to. No one order of government can do this on their own. We all have our own levers and our own responsibilities, and Canadians need each and every one of us to step up. Dans le plan qu'on annonce aujourd'hui, il y a plusieurs mesures qui vont encourager les provinces, les territoires et les municipalités à collaborer avec nous pour construire plus de logements. Le plan rend les projets rentables pour les constructeurs pour que les travaux puissent commencer plus rapidement. On contribue à protéger et à élargir l'accès aux coopératives et aux logements abordables. On se concentre sur des nouvelles façons d'utiliser les terrains publics pour construire des logements et on propose plusieurs solutions innovatrices. On a besoin de solutions concrètes et c'est exactement ce qu'on présente aujourd'hui. Tout le monde mérite d'avoir un chez-soi abordable. On est tous d'accord là-dessus. Un logement, ça permet aux gens de commencer leur vie et de réussir. It's not right that housing prices have made cities and a lot of other places out of reach for young people, including millennials and Gen Z. Young people deserve the same freedoms, choices, and opportunities that their parents and grandparents had. We need to make sure we're building a future that is fair for every generation. Today's housing plan is about the next steps we're taking to do just that. And now, before I turn it over to the Deputy Prime Minister, I'm highlighting that right now, as we speak, the Parliament of Canada is working hard under our government to pass legislation that is about workers and it's about supporting the kinds of good, clean jobs that the future is going to bring. And because it is focused on supporting workers and building a stronger, greener future, of course, the Conservatives are doing everything they can to block it. So we are stuck in an all-day vote right now. That they had amendments that they even generated possibly by AI to try and slow us down. But we're going to continue to vote and stand up for workers and stand up for the brighter future people have. So you're going to see us voting throughout the morning on our electronic voting apps. And we'll do that before I introduce the Deputy Prime Minister. Merci. Yep, sure.
Okay, well, thank you very much, Prime Minister. Thanks everyone for being here. Francesco, buongiorno. Mi fa piacere d'essere qua a Vaughan. It is wonderful to be here today in Vaughan with the Prime Minister, with Sean, with so many of our caucus and cabinet colleagues. It's especially a privilege for me, I think for all of us, to be here with the students, the soon-to-be apprentices at the College of Carpenters and Allied Trades. And I have to say, those conversations we had just a minute ago were really inspiring, really, really moving for me. I talked to one young soon-to-be apprentice called Jordan, and he said he's really excited that one day he is going to be building the schools and the hospitals that his neighbors, his family use, and how proud that makes him. Isn't that a great sentiment? And it is so true. Another student said to me, I asked, how do you guys feel? And I use guys in an inclusive sense. How do you feel about getting a job when you're finished here? And they'll be done in 5 weeks, and then they will be a first-year apprentice. And one student said, I feel really good about it. Canada is a growing country. And if you are a skilled tradesperson, if you are a carpenter, you're gonna have a good job. That is so true, and it works the other way too. As a growing country, we need our skilled tradespeople. We need our carpenters. We are literally counting on you to build our growing country. And I just want to say thank you so, so much. I am inspired by every single carpenter, every single apprentice, every single student here, and we all should be, and I think we owe them our thanks. Why do we need them so much? Because we are living in a pivotal moment for millennials and Gen Z. These young Canadians have so much talent and so much potential. But today, too many young Canadians feel as if the deck is stacked against them. They can get a good job, they can work hard, but far too often, the reward of a secure, prosperous, comfortable middle-class life is out of reach. That is not okay. We need the hard work of young Canadians to be rewarded. And that's why we are acting now with purpose to build a Canada that works for younger Canadians, a Canada where they can get ahead and where they know that their hard work will pay off. Nous allons accélérer rapidement la construction de nouveaux logements dans tout le pays. Nous ferons en sorte que la vie coûte moins cher. Et nous allons faire croître l'économie d'une manière qui profite à tout le monde. One of the biggest pressures on Canadians right now is housing. And we all know this is especially true for younger Canadians. Faced with a shortage of housing options and rent which is just too high and home prices which feel out of reach, too many younger Canadians feel that that dream of getting your first set of keys, of owning your own house, is just that, a dream. Our government is changing that. Today, we are announcing real, tangible, carefully thought through measures that are going to help more younger Canadians get those first keys of their own. We are using every single tool in our toolbox to deliver housing without delay, because we need to make the dream of home ownership a reality for younger Canadians. And in the budget I'll be tabling on Tuesday, we will reveal more of our plan to ensure fairness for every generation. Notre gouvernement est en fonction en promettant de renforcer et d'élargir la classe moyenne. Nous avons tenu cet engagement en réduisant la pauvreté, en particulier celle des enfants et des personnes âgées, et en créant des millions de bons emplois pour les Canadiennes et les Canadiens. Notre travail n'est pas terminé. Our renewed focus today is unlocking the door to the middle class for millions of younger Canadians. In everything we do, we dedicate ourselves to making sure a better life is within reach for our younger generations. Because that is what you deserve. That is what you have earned. And that's what your parents and your grandparents want for you too. Thank you very much, and I'll pass it over now to Sean.
We're not just taking selfies, it uses facial recognition. Shoot.
You may not need my stick.
Oh, yeah. Perhaps not. Look, thanks very much, everyone. Democracy in action. Look, I want to start just by saying thank you to everyone for being here, in particular to the workers and apprentices who were studying to get the skills that are going to help build our way out of the housing crisis. To my colleagues, in particular, Minister Hussein, who preceded us and set us up for a lot of the success we're going to enjoy, and absolutely deserves a round of applause. Chad, some of our municipal leaders, Leah, Paul, oh geez, everybody's here. My God, Majid, Manny, Tony, everybody's, this is terrific. And I really want to say thank you, because we can't get very far on our own. We are going to solve the national housing crisis. And this is our plan that's going to help us do it. I know we're going to solve the housing crisis because I know what Canadians are capable of. Before I walk you through some of the measures, I just want to tell you about some of the people and organizations who are actually inspiring what we're doing today. This plan is inspired by people like John Wesley Chisholm, who's building a housing development in a small community called Musquodoboit Harbour, working with volunteers like Brian and John and Karen, builders like Mike, who are actually going to meet the housing needs of an entire community. It's inspired by companies like Dora Construction, who's building a home building factory, creating good jobs, good middle-class jobs for Canadians. At the same time, they're introducing a community to apartment buildings that are manufactured locally in one of those factories. In fact, someone from the company called me 10 minutes before our announcement today to talk about another opportunity to add 10,000 homes to the national supply by incentivizing more factory-built homes. It's inspired by projects like Cody's Place, a project that's providing housing to low-income families and is actually supporting local home builders when they place their orders to build out more units. It's inspired by ideas that are allowing us to build small homes at prices that people can afford across income levels, generated by companies like Sprout and Jones Company, to make sure that people can actually participate in being part of the solution by building homes next to properties that they already own for people that they love. These are extraordinary opportunities that we've learned about. And you know what all these have in common? All of these come from my own neck of the woods in Nova Scotia. But what's extraordinarily inspiring is that there's solutions like this, people like this, ideas like this in every part of the country. Workers with the Carpenters Union, People are starting to become apprentices right here that are going to help us build our way out of the housing crisis. Now, the plan that we're producing today includes three main components. The first is to build more homes. We're going to do that by reducing the cost of home building, by putting tax incentives on the table for builders, low-cost financing so we can scale up building, not just for large institutional builders, but for individual homeowners who want to put an additional unit in their backyard where they can accommodate that. We're also going to be launching new measures that help unlock federal lands in a way that we have never pursued before, at a faster speed and in larger numbers, including with a new strategy that will allow us to maintain ownership of the land and enter into long-term leases so we can reduce the cost not just of construction, but the cost of living for the people who will live in the homes built on those lands. In addition to reducing the cost, we also have to make it easier to build homes by incentivizing leaders like the municipal leaders that we have here today who've worked with us through the Housing Accelerator Fund to upzone their communities, reduce permitting time so we can build faster and more easily. We're also going to be putting more infrastructure money on the table to help ensure the communities are prepared for the homes that we need to build. In addition, we're going to make sure that we change the way that homes are built by making major investments to train and scale up the Canadian home building workforce, to more quickly and more easily recognize the credentials of those who were trained in another country, and to ensure that we're incentivizing home manufacturing in factory settings so we can increase home building at a scale we've never seen before. We've got new measures to make it easier to rent or buy, including a renter's bill of rights, including a renter's protection fund, including using your rental history to establish a credit, new supports to help people save up for a down payment and to reduce the monthly cost of a mortgage. And we can't forget that we have a responsibility to help some of the most vulnerable in this country. We're putting additional investments on the table to build out affordable housing because the cause of homelessness is not a person's family history. It's not just mental health or addictions. It's a lack of adequate, affordable housing. We're also putting more money on the table to help nonprofits acquire properties that are available to low-income families today to keep them affordable forever, and putting additional supports directly for communities who are working to end encampments by transitioning people to durable housing solutions. Folks, we're going to lead, but we can't do it on our own. We need provinces and territories to match our ambition. We need municipal leaders to adopt faster permitting process and more permissible zoning processes so we can actually build more homes in communities that already have the infrastructure to support them. To cities, it's time to legalize more kinds of housing. We need to work together across levels of government to incentivize home builders and support the organizations that are helping people who need a home themselves. We have a choice to make, not just as a federal government, but as a country. Do we want to talk about the housing crisis, or do we want to solve it? I want to tell you exactly where the federal government stands. It's time to build, and we're going to bring Canadians along with us. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Minister. We'll now begin the media availability. One question, one follow-up. First question goes to Sarah Sears from CBC.
Good morning, Prime Minister.
Good morning.
The CSIS director testified this morning that even though he may not have read the briefing notes word for word, he did warn your government about Chinese interference, including that the PRC clandestinely supported a candidate. Why didn't you act? Is it because you don't have trust in David Vigneault?
I have tremendous trust in our intelligence agencies, as I testified to. They do really important work to keep Canadians safe. And the conversations that we've had with them since 2015 about the reality of foreign interference is exactly why we stepped up with so many brand new mechanisms so that our country can stand stronger and clearer against foreign interference. That's why we created the National Security and Intelligence Committee of Parliamentarians over the objections of the Conservatives. It's why we created NCIRA. It's why we moved forward with the SITE task force of security agencies to lean in to what's happening in terms of foreign interference and security every day during our elections. It's why we have a panel of 5 top civil servants to weigh in on that. No government in the history of the country has ever taken foreign interference as seriously as we have over the past number of years in terms of the institutions, the measures, the new tools that we've developed. But as the director of CSIS highlighted, there's always more to do, and that's why we're continuing to work to move forward on new initiatives like our National Security Council, for example, that we've created. There are many things to do, and we're going to continue to work on them and keep Canadians and our democracy safe. au fil des années, depuis 2015, j'ai eu énormément de conversations avec les différentes agences de sécurité, y compris le CSIS, pour parler de l'ingérence étrangère et se doter de nouveaux outils pour contrer l'ingérence étrangère. On a démontré depuis 2015 qu'on prend ça extrêmement au sérieux parce qu'on a outillé justement nos institutions, notre démocratie, nos agences de sécurité avec de nouvelles façons et de nouveaux outils pour répondre à l'ingérence étrangère et protéger nos institutions et nos citoyens contre l'ingérence étrangère. On va continuer de faire le travail parce qu'il y en a plus à faire toujours. On vient d'annoncer la création, le début d'un Conseil national de sécurité au niveau du Conseil des ministres. Il y a toujours plus à faire et on va continuer de le faire.
And the NDP is expressing reservations about the carbon tax. What does it signal that you have lost many premiers and now you may be losing the NDP's support for your plan as well?
I feel for the NDP and for Jagmeet. This is a hard moment. There are political headwinds. There's a lot of political pressure. I'm certainly feeling it. Everyone should be feeling it. By folks out there who are worried about affordability, who are worried about climate change. And I don't know. My perspective is this is a time to actually do more to fight climate change, not less. To do more to put money in people's pockets. And it's not a handful of conservative politicians and premiers that are going to turn me away from continuing the fight against climate change, the fight for a better future, and the fight to put more money in people's pockets. So I don't entirely understand the position of the NDP in pulling back both from affordability measures and from the fight against climate change. But I can assure everyone that this government, my government, will continue to step up on the fight against climate change, will continue to put more money in families' pockets. As of this coming Monday, the 15th, families right across the country in federal carbon backstop jurisdictions will be receiving the CCR in their bank accounts, the Canada Carbon Rebate, that will give them more money up front than they will be, on average, paying out with the price on pollution. That's extra money for affordability, for groceries, for costs that families are facing. The Conservatives are telling everyone they will take away those carbon rebate checks and step back in the fight against climate change. It's unfortunate that their arguments seem to be resonating with the NDP. But this government will continue to be steadfast in putting more money in 8 out of 10 Canadians' pockets with the Canada Carbon Rebate, particularly middle-income and low-income families, and continuing to fight against climate change. And on the issue of industrial pricing that the NDP is suggesting, that's a great idea. That's why we have it in place. That's why we're doing that. That's why we're making sure that heavy emitters pay for their pollution as well. But it's also why, recognizing that big companies often pass on costs to citizens, that we will be putting more money in citizens' pockets as we continue to step up in the fight against climate change.
Thank you, Prime Minister. We'll take a quick pause for a vote.
Oh, thank you. And with every vote, we're pushing back against the Conservatives, standing against workers and against a greener future for everyone.
Next question.
The carbon tax question in French, please, if you don't mind, Prime Minister.
Je suis J'ai un peu de sympathie pour le NPD qui se trouve dans une situation politique difficile où il y a beaucoup de pression de retirer leur appui pour la lutte contre les changements climatiques. Mais je ne le comprends pas. Parce qu'on est dans un moment où le leadership responsable, c'est de continuer de lutter contre les changements climatiques avec tous les outils qu'on a et de mettre un prix sur la pollution et de remettre plus d'argent dans les poches des familles canadiennes. C'est ça la voie que nous avons prise comme gouvernement et on va continuer de le faire malgré le rouspétage des conservateurs et des premiers ministres à travers le pays. On est là pour livrer pour les familles avec plus d'argent dans leurs poches pendant qu'on est ambitieux dans la lutte contre les changements climatiques. Ce n'est pas un moment pour retirer l'ambition pour l'avenir, pour la planète et l'appui aux familles. Donc, je ne comprends pas tout à fait la position du NPD, mais je peux rassurer les gens que ce gouvernement libéral va toujours être là pour en faire plus contre les changements climatiques, plus pour les prochaines générations, en mettant plus d'argent dans les poches des familles canadiennes. Tout de suite.
Colin DeMello from Global News. On the carbon pricing, it's not just politicians, it's people as well. A new poll by Liaison Strategies found a majority of Ontario residents rank the cost of living higher than environmental protections, and a plurality are in favor of abolishing the price on carbon, even if it means eliminating their personal carbon price rebate. So can you tell Ontarians why your government's price on carbon is more important than their ability to make ends meet?
But the way we price carbon actually puts more money in the pockets of 8 out of 10 families, like families in Ontario, where the cost of living is high and where the need to fight climate change is clear with every wildfire, with every flood, with every drought. The Parliamentary Budget Officer confirmed that 8 out of 10 families get more money from the way we're pricing pollution, because we put a price on pollution and then we give that money back to Canadians. And that means as of this Monday, on April 15th, the CCR, the Canada Carbon Rebate, is going to appear in people's bank accounts. They're going to get checks for it. That gives them more money than the average family will pay in carbon price over the next 3 months. That's how it works. It's a measure on affordability, and it's a measure to fight climate change at the same time. And we're going to continue to deliver that money to Canadians, and we're going to continue to stand strong in making sure that pollution isn't free anywhere across the country. And if Mr. Poilievre wants to take away those affordability checks for Canadians and wants to do less on the fight against climate change, because that's what he's proposing, he's going to have to explain that to all Canadians. Because right now, he has no plan for affordability, no plan for climate change, and, as we've seen again today, no plan for housing, which is why we're coming forward with a real announcement today.
On housing infrastructure, Prime Minister, the $6 billion fund you announced last week, Ontario, as you know, has rejected 4 units as of right, which was one of your conditions. The province believes that the fund is subject to some negotiation. So can we get your view? Are the conditions for that fund non-negotiable, or is there room for some conversation?
Oh, that money is going to flow. The only question that Ontario has to ask is whether it wants the money to flow through the province to municipalities or whether it flows directly to municipalities. We know that there are lots of communities, lots of people, lots of regions in this country that are very ambitious about doing everything necessary to get more homes built and to get families into those homes. And we're going to work with them. So the $6 billion on wastewater and housing enabling infrastructure is going to be there to make sure we can grow our housing stock in this country. Ideally, we do it with ambitious partners in the provinces. If the provinces don't want to do it, that just means there's more money to go directly to the municipalities. One way or another, we're going to be there to get housing built for Canadians It just works a lot better, and to be honest, we can do even more as a country if the provinces decide to roll up their sleeves and get on board fully.
Bonjour, Monsieur Trudeau. À l'approche du budget, dans le contexte actuel également, est-ce que c'est le moment, selon vous, de taxer les citoyens les plus riches?
Notre préoccupation première dans ce budget, c'est de reconnaître que pour les jeunes familles, pour les jeunes à travers le pays, le système n'a plus l'air de fonctionner. L'économie ne fonctionne plus pour eux. Malgré leur bon emploi, malgré le travail qu'ils font, ils n'arrivent pas à se voir propriétaires de maisons. Ils ont énormément de défis à se payer le loyer. C'est pour ça qu'on est là avec un budget qui, oui, va construire beaucoup plus de logements plus rapidement, mais aussi un budget qui va investir dans ce dont ils ont besoin pour réussir. On va avoir beaucoup plus à dire mardi sur comment on va créer cette équité dans l'économie pour toutes les générations et de mettre l'emphase sur ces jeunes qui sont essentiels pour la réussite de notre économie. Mais d'ici là, nous sommes en train de démontrer les mesures qui vont avoir un impact réel pour ces jeunes.
Mais est-ce que les plus fortunés, les grandes entreprises aussi devront contribuer davantage, à votre avis?
Je pense que l'idée d'avoir une économie qui est juste pour toutes les générations en est une que tout le monde peut reconnaître. Quand je parle à des jeunes familles, quand je parle à des travailleurs, et ils me disent que, écoute, ils ne voient pas leur avenir avec les mêmes opportunités, les mêmes possibilités que la génération de nos parents, de nos grands-parents. Or, le Canada devrait pouvoir offrir ces opportunités aux jeunes. C'est pour ça qu'on a mis de l'avant des mesures, que ce soit des programmes de nourriture scolaire, que ce soit plus de places en garderie avec des investissements en infrastructure, que ce soit au niveau de l'accélération de logement, que ce soit toutes les différentes choses dans lesquelles on est en train d'investir pour aider ces jeunes, on reconnaît qu'on a besoin de rendre notre économie plus juste pour toutes les générations.
Next question.
Hi, Prime Minister. Laura Stone, Globe and Mail. Back to provincial relations. Alberta has a new bill that seeks to stop your government or federal governments from negotiating directly with municipalities, essentially saying stick to national policy, not in my backyard. And she says it would be inefficient for you to negotiate all of these agreements with hundreds of municipalities. Can you respond to her criticisms and why you would still pursue this?
It seems like it was only a few months ago that I pointed out quite accurately that the federal government doesn't have a whole lot of direct carriage of housing, that it is very much a provincial and municipal responsibility. The federal government has certain responsibilities that we've been stepping up on since 2017, but I pointed out that this is not something the federal government can solve alone. And over the following weeks and months, we heard from a cavalcade of premiers saying, see, the federal government needs to step up more, needs to do more. It's trying to get out of the business of housing. The federal government needs to step up and fix this housing crisis that we've seen across the country. So we are. Provinces should be careful what they wish for. They want the federal government to fix this housing crisis? We are. We will. Now, let me be very clear. It'll be much better if the provinces continue to step up with significant ambition. And we've seen a number of provinces do that. When we announced the Housing Accelerator funding, $4 billion across the country, Quebec said, you know what? We'll actually match the $900 million you're sending to municipalities in Quebec. We'll double it, and we'll do even more, even faster. BC came forward and said, you know what? There's a BC Builds program we've wanted to build around affordable housing. If you can match the money we're doing, we'll do even more. And we did that, and we created the Canada Builds program. And we're working directly with municipalities that want to be super ambitious. The 3 mayors that are here today represent municipalities that signed housing accelerator agreements worth in excess of $150 million that's going to create 4,000 units over the coming years in this region. These are things we are doing concretely where we recognize that Canadians need help and support and investment, and don't so much care about whose responsibility it is first and foremost. They just want it to get done, and that's why we are there to work hand in hand in full respect with those provinces who want to solve the problem, and ask those provinces that don't want to solve the problem to just get out of the way while we solve that problem that Canadians are facing. Il y a plusieurs mois, quand j'ai souligné que le gouvernement fédéral ne pouvait pas seul réussir à résoudre la crise du logement, on a entendu des conservateurs, des premiers ministres à travers le pays se plaindre que le gouvernement fédéral devait agir, devait résoudre cette crise du logement à laquelle les Canadiens font face. Alors, on est en train de le faire, et là, ils chignent parce qu'on est en train d'agir pour lutter contre la crise du logement. C'est un peu ridicule. Comme on a vu, il y a plusieurs provinces, dont le Québec et la Colombie-Britannique, qui ont démontré un niveau d'ambition maximal en termes de logement. Et donc, on est là pour travailler avec eux, pour investir, pour qu'ils puissent résoudre les défis auxquels les citoyens font face. D'autres provinces ne veulent pas agir avec ambition, ne veulent pas répondre aux défis auxquels les Canadiens sont en train de faire face. Alors, en tant que gouvernement, on a dit, bon, si les provinces ne veulent pas agir, nous, on a les moyens d'agir. Alors, on va agir et on va encourager les provinces à en faire plus. C'est ce que les Canadiens s'attendent, à ce que tous les ordres de gouvernement travaillent ensemble pour résoudre le problème. C'est exactement ce qu'on est en train de faire.
Merci. We're going to take a quick pause for the vote.
Shadows work. If you turn your face into the shadows. Tech support.
Okay, next question.
And Prime Minister, back to the foreign interference inquiry. Much has been made of your admission, I suppose, during the testimony that you rarely read all of your intelligence briefings, or that you don't read them all. Are you going to do that now?
I read everything that is put in front of me. A Prime Minister takes in massive amounts of information and reads massive amounts of documents. I expect anything that is of particular high importance or relevance to be elevated, and that's what happens.
Last question.
Good afternoon, Prime Minister Malhamedou, the Canadian Press. With the change in the NDP's position on carbon pricing, are you worried that the NDP is going to stop backing up your government in Parliament?
I've spent a lot of time talking with Canadians across the country, particularly progressive Canadians, and I don't think there's a single NDP voter out there that doesn't want us to all do more in the fight against climate change. I understand the political pressures on the NDP leadership right now and the challenges of holding an unpopular position. But doing the right thing should be something that progressive voters in this country can count on. This government will continue to stand up in the fight against climate change, to do everything with all the tools necessary to fight climate change and to protect our planet for future generations, while continuing to put more money in the pockets of 8 out of 10 Canadian families right across the country. I'll leave it to Jagmeet Singh to explain why he's stepping back from the urgency both of the fight against climate change and the need to put more money in families' pockets. But I can tell you that this government will continue to be steadfast in putting a price on pollution and giving that price to Canadians to help with affordability.
Thank you, Prime Minister. That concludes today's press conference.
Merci beaucoup tout le monde. Thank you all.